Notice how the driver's wheel is turned left and the passenger's wheel is straight. No problem. Well, I did something very bad to my wheel. I didn't tighten bolts down enough, I guess, that held the ball joint on. And so after a few months, one of the bolts backed out, fell off, and allowed my wheel to pull so far away from the transmission that the axle broke. So here's the wheel. Or sorry, the tire's off, but this is the brake drum. And if you can see, what makes the wheel go round is the axle. This thing here with the yellow label on it. And it runs from this CV joint on the back of the wheel. Oh, I'm sorry. This CV joint connects to the wheel, and then the axle goes down towards the transmission, and it should hook up into this hole right here, but it doesn't. It popped right out. It is dangling in here, rolling around loose. So the car doesn't go straight, and well, it doesn't go forward, and it wasn't going straight either. My two wheels ended up cockeyed and broken down on the side of the road. So I had to get towed off the street, and it was kind of dangerous. So this all turns. The boot here is torn, and the bearing is here on this end, which pulled completely loose from this cup. And so I'm going to pull this off and replace this axle. Wish me luck. All right, I got the brakes out of the way so you can see a little bit better. All right, so the hub turns. This is the CV joint boot up near the wheel, and then as you get back towards the engine, this is disconnected catastrophically, and that's the little cup I'll be pulling out right there. So I think I'm going to end up taking all this off. These babies up here, and this one, and then underneath there's this ball joint, which is held on by these two bolts. One of these is the bolts that let go and ruined my axle and stranded me. So I guess I'll be putting those on tighter next time. All right, I'm gonna punch this out this way with a hammer. All right, I'm gonna punch this out this way with a hammer. All right, so that's on. All right, so that bolt's on, just so I don't mushroom this inner thing. Although it wouldn't really matter because I'm replacing it. Oh, I guess that was not hard at all. Beautiful. All right, so here's the end that got wrecked. This was towards the transmission. This boot ripped. This was filled with grease. Grease was flung all around the area. I didn't know if I had an oil leak or a transmission oil leak or what, but it was just this grease, I believe, because it's not still leaking. It's not red, and the engine oil's fine. So I guess that's how that works. Maybe I could just put this back together and put a new cup and grease in here. But I bought a new axle, so I'm gonna replace it. All this stuff is slippery. Feels good. It's just destroyed. This is the axle I got. I ordered it online. One of the greatest things about working on your own car is that the parts are so much cheaper. All right. I'll compare this to the one that I just pulled out. These blinds look the same. These shafts look different, but it could just be because the boots are different tightnesses. This seems like it's going to end up right there. That should be fine. This goes in and out. All right, so I did not have much room to get a screwdriver or something behind the little cup to pry it out. So I tried a screwdriver and I tried a chisel, and I was really hammering on it. Here's the chisel I was using to try to get something behind it so I could pry that little cup of the CV joint off of the transmission. And I watched a video on it, and nobody had any trouble with it. So I just went back with a screwdriver and tried prying a little differently, and I don't know what I was doing differently, but this time it came out without much effort. So this last bit of the CV joint came out, and I was able to get a look at the hole in the transmission, which looks jacked up. So of course my fear is that the transmission is destroyed. I don't know why this. So there's an odd bar that goes across the center of it that does not look right, but there's teeth on the outside that look okay. And my new concern is the shape of this ring, which is clearly bent up here and bent over there. So that is not good. So hopefully that comes out when you take out that center part. So I think I'm going to try that and then probably give up. All right, I've had some success. I was able to pry off the axle seal, which is what this little piece is called. And what's left looks good. I was a little nervous about chewing it up with the pliers, but or a chisel, I mean, but it was already destroyed, so I figured why not just pried at it. So hopefully that it's all good and I can just replace this seal and the axle. I'll let you know how that goes. After prying off the old one, I brought it to the auto parts store and failed to get one at Pep Boys, but Napa Auto Parts had one that matched up visually beautifully. So we're going to try this out. Just going to tap this one in. I'll probably put a piece of wood on top of this and tap it in, but I can't film that. All right, so I went to go hammer this new seal in. I tried to press it in, but it doesn't just slide into place. So I started hammering on it with a piece of wood, and it started denting the metal casing. So I realized that I have to hammer just on the outside edge and in a way that pushes the whole thing in at once, so it'll be nicely seated. I'm tempted to go buy another one because this one's dented, but the inside looks fine. So I'm just going to oil this up and try again. I made a little tool. I used an old wheel bearing that's going to fit just right and only hammer on the outside edge of this. And so I'm just going to tap this in and see if I can get it to seat nicely. All right, I am attempting to put the new seal in right here, but I'm having a hard time hammering it in straight. I went to AutoZone and rented a kit that included this piece that should fit over here and enable me to hammer it in really nice and straight. But to get a straight shot at it, I've got this stuff in the way. This is the knuckle, and I believe this is called the strut. So I'm taking this out just so I can get a straight shot at it, because hammering it from the side is not helping me. I don't know if you can tell, but the left side of the seal up there, that brown ring around it, the left side of the seal is it's not seated properly. So I've got to get it straight, or it's not worth it, or it's not going to work rather. I pulled out the new axle, out of the box that is, and put the cup end into here where I replaced the seal, and then I hammered on this end a couple times. You should hear a click from what I hear, but I didn't. So I just tried to yank it out from the cup end, and it is in there. So I'm calling that good, and reassembling all this. All right, well, I skipped some steps. I put the disc back on, I put the brakes back on, I put the wheel back on, tightened up the hub nut, which is behind here, and then jacked the car back up again, put this little plastic cover back on, and then put the wheel back on and tightened it down. I'm most worried about that seal on the transmission that I put on. I can't see, I don't have a good shot of how it looks now, of where the axle connects to the transmission, but the lack of any liquid dripping now is it's a really good sign. So I'm going to keep checking on that and make sure no liquid's dripping out. But it looks like this is going to work great. I'm still in the test drive phase, and I think it's going to work out. So I'm really happy.